Some couple of years ago, perhaps before the reign of smartphones and memes, if ever a time had existed, I find myself at a bookstore browsing the graphic novel section, and I saw a book that for its time had gained quite the infamy for its association with the Gothic subculture and its macabre depictions of gore and violence. To the top of the book were the letters J, T, H, and M. And at its center, like a brand, was Z ? And below it, Director's Cut. I slip the book out from its shelf and proceed to find my place to read, accompanied by my usual bookstore companion. The individual of which I speak of is, to me at least, the example of a good man. If few words could describe him, it would be fair, admirable, thoughtful, humble, endearing, and most of all, respectful. At the moment, I was of a juvenile age and did not quite see these qualities, blinded by my own youthful self-righteousness, and even now at my slightly wiser years, I feel as though I only half acknowledge this man's greatness. My bookstore companion had gazed from his own reading material to observe mine. He was familiar with the brand Z ? That emblazoned on the book. He did not appear to be too thrilled of my choice in literature, and chose to speak his mind on the matter. He asked me why I read that sort of book. He began to make claims about the sort of people who read that sort of book. He claimed that the audience of the book all wear exclusively black clothing with black makeup, piercings on every inch of their bodies, as well as tattoos. Furthermore, he claimed that the audience were depressed people, always being sad and angry about something. I let my companion speak his mind, and with no response, I merely returned to enjoying the book. Well, at some time, the two of us are still at the bookstore reading our own books, and suddenly I notice a pair of fingers creep over the spine of my book. The voice that these two fingers belong to exclaims something along the lines of, "That's a good book." I cock my head up to gain a full view of the individual. At the small moment of time, I had regarded the being as a vision, not for romantic reasons, although she was a pretty woman, but rather her general appearance. The woman wore blue jeans, had a red dress shirt, and over it a brown leather jacket. In the brief moment I scanned her, I noticed no tattoos. If she had makeup on, it was not visible enough for me to tell you what color it was, and as for piercings, she had just two, one on each ear. The moment in its physical state had passed. The woman left, and it was just me and my bookstore companion. The whole time that I looked at the woman, I did not know if my fellow book reader had even noticed, but that was fine. It was a moment for me to be happy about. You see, my bookstore companion is a wise one, understanding the greater depths of mathematical equations and scientific principles. However, understanding the fickle and unpredictable nature of the human individual is not something he is completely good at. He tends to lump people into sets of categories from which in his mind there is no escape from, no exception to the rules. As my dear friend had exclaimed early before, all the people that read the book that I was reading are all what he basically described as being the stereotypical goth. However, that woman that approached me was the complete opposite of such descriptions, and it made me happy. Happy to know that my bookstore companion, and furthermore, no other person, had the complexities of people down to a science, not as long as individuality exists. All the categories that one wastes their time with thinking up and assigning people to can all be challenged with one simple factor, and that factor is an exception, an outlier, and any such words that basically describe an individual. I am very aware of the kinetic power that the average circumstance may have, but I also recognize the potential power to each exception to every standard. Now it has been many years since that brief moment in time, and without further ramblings, I return you to your regularly scheduled programming. JTHM Director's Cut, created by Jhonen Vasquez and published under Slave Labor Graphics. This is a book that I have been wanting to review for some time, but was worried about how I would approach it. But in the end, I told myself, fuck it. Carpe Diem, or better yet, Carpe Noctem. I believe that's supposed to mean seize the night, but also it was the name of the magazine that had the older Johnny the Homicidal Maniac comic strips before they became full-on issues. JTHM Director's Cut contains all of the 7 issues of Johnny the Homicidal Maniac published under slave labor graphics, and the early comic strips published by Carpe Noctem, provided with commentary from Vasquez himself. This book will feel like something important for me, because it was something that I feel a little bit nostalgic for. To the surprise of probably no one, I had read it when I was in my angst years of middle school, and it had been more or less the foundation for my sense of humor when it came to making my own little comic strips many years ago. Now, after all this time, I stumbled upon JTHM and Squee, I'll review that one in a later video, at a comic vendor in C2E2, and I feel like doing a review of it. The story of JTHM Director's Cut tells the terrifyingly hilarious tale of Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, aka Nee, who devotes his time to the despicable murders of people regardless of whether they deserved it or not, draining them of all their blood and painting a wall in a room deep beneath his house with said blood, that acts as a prison for a mysterious monster, and the constant fresh coat of blood is meant to act as a sort of reinforcement for the wall. Questionable hilarity ensues from Nee's adventures as he begins to turn from a killing machine to at least a slightly more conscientious killing machine, beginning to question his purpose and whether his actions are really his own, as he is conflicted with the choices of continuing to murder by the masses, take his own life to stop all the pain, or potentially seek help. Choices that are presented by different voices in Nee's head, them being the devilish Mr. Fuck and Psycho Doughboy, 2 Pillsbury Doughboy knockoffs, and the angelic, helpful Nail Bunny, who before becoming a voice in his head had been a living bunny that Johnny adopted and then impaled it to death with a hammer and nail. The psychological fight for supremacy takes Johnny on a trip to heaven and hell and back again, with some questions answered, but still more questions to be asked and never to be answered. On to the artwork. It is quite frankly one of the most unique examples of comic book art that I have had the pleasure of seeing. Whether you love, hate, or are left confused by the sort of creation that Johnny the Homicidal Maniac is, I feel like it cannot be denied that Vasquez's style is one we do not see often of, as it is not a common template art of most comic books being written to date. One major praise that I have is that I think that Vasquez is an excellent stylistic calligrapher. Whether it is a skill he is aware of possessing or just something he does without much thought into it, I feel as though Vasquez's art truly shines when it comes to his style and lettering. Simple letters that form the titles of issues or the secret messages in the margins of certain pages are all like their own mini art gallery that one can spend most of their time just staring at and almost forgetting about the story altogether. My favorite especially is the secret messages hidden in the margins of some of the short comic strips. I enjoy them for the challenge of trying to figure out what any of these messages are saying, but trust me, don't expect anything deep or profound about the messages. Most of them are just simple dumb words like poop, moose, fuck. There's even one where there are complete sentences, but they say very stupid things, like I'll show you. It's like in here. Hold on, maybe this is better if I look at it first and then show you guys. Like, don't know if you guys can see that. Come on, focus you fuck. Focus you fuck. Okay, I think this is a reasonable distance. This one says floss daily. You can probably see the F, L, and D. It says floss daily. The other one, I just need to find it for you guys so I can actually point to it. Fuck you, Vasquez. This one says, this one says, be nice. Another one this one was actually kind of challenging. I feel like I figured out most of the words to this. Yeah, this one's in the creases too, so it's going to be a little challenging to show you guys, but it says sex with chickens. I mean, the sex part is very, like, obvious. You can see that. S-E-X. But yeah, it's so far what I can figure out is it says sex with chickens. And it also says, yeah, it's right here. It also says off to the side right here, it says worship me. Which, when you want to think about it in terms of, like, I don't know, some, like, lunatic that's trying to get people to his side, maybe this is literally the only thing that Vasquez wrote that counts as, like, a subliminal message, like, as in it's trying to influence you, because he's asking you to worship him. Maybe Vasquez is also telling me to make love to farm animals. Maybe that's another thing he wants me to do, but I don't think he wants me to do responsible things like floss daily or be nice to people. That's just absurd. In a vain attempt to avoid biases and be somewhat critical, I will say that one problem I have at the same time I like it a lot is the intense cluttering of just all kinds of shit in a single page. One panel alone is filled with all sorts of little detail, and I do like detailed panels in comics, but I can't help but feel like some of the pages and its heavy amount of detail does detract from the story. Although, to be honest, the story itself can detract at times, so take of it what you will, I guess. Some of those sidetracks that the director's cut makes are little comic strips here and there that don't advance the plot in any way, but they provide some good humor. To show you some examples of said comic strips, let me just find it for you guys. Here we go. That took a long fucking time. So there's two of these, like, PSA comics, public service announcements. There's this one that's supposed to, you know, take a crack at the typical, like, teenage pregnancy problems, and just shows, like, a girl with her baby and not having the means to take care of her baby, unfortunately. And of course it's got the very morbid style that Vasquez is known for. Like, one thing that will always get me about this comic strip is just at the end, this huge bite that the mom takes out of her baby. Like, I want to see if I can get a good shot. Like, it's probably not as good as seeing it with your own eyes, but, like, that bite mark that she takes out of the baby is just very, like it gets me in a certain way, because it's just so, like she's taking a bite out of a burger. It's weird. But, yeah. The other one is, again, like I said, another public service announcement. And, yeah, it makes light of kids being out on the street. This one's a little more visceral in a way, because it's like the kid's eyeball shoots out because as a result of, like, all the drugs that he's done, and he's, like, supposed to be a teenager, but all the drugs he's done has stunted his growth. So, again, very, very questionable humor we've got going on here. What else would you expect? The other, like, sidetrack, there's a bunch of them that also have Johnny in them. Yeah, the other one, which is actually a personal favorite just because of like the tone or story that it was going for, is Anguish. Anguish is about a goth girl who's very shallow. She laments over being ridiculed for her difference, while at the same time ridiculing others. There's not a whole lot to say about these side stories in general. They are more or less just one and done, and the art is pretty much the same, but of course, what we all came here for was... drumroll... some happy fucking noodle boy. Yeah, so it's just a dumb stick figure shouting obscenities in public. But, you know, it's dumb, but it's dumb fun. And, yeah. Aside from that, there are concept art. This is actually pretty cool to look at. Concept art for, Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, as well as the, like, comic strips he made. You know, simple beginnings of comic strips made in high school, I think, and now to where it is now. JTHM Director's Cut is a unique piece of comic book literature that I do recommend almost obsessively. However, I feel kind of obligated to make note that this comic might not be for everyone. It has some grotesque, violent imagery. At times, it can make light out of something as serious as mental illness and thoughts of suicide, and almost very fluidly, it goes from dark humor to taking those kinds of topics very seriously, and then goes straight back to comedy. So it is not for the faint of heart, and I honestly do not say that mockingly. If you are someone that is easily disturbed by these sorts of material, this graphic novel is obviously not for you. On the other hand, if you are someone that isn't bothered much by this kind of stuff, check out this book. I am not totally sure where you can find this book nowadays. Like I said earlier, I found this as well as the Squee comic at a convention, and for a pretty cheap price. In total, both comics came to just $6, but there is the possibility that it may be more expensive elsewhere, like online, just because of the scarcity of the comic. With that, those are my thoughts on JTHM Director's Cut. I hope this was amusing or informative or simply whatever it was that you were looking for. Check back soon when I have something else to look at. Until then.